At the company awards night, my manager mocked, "She's like our emotional support employee, always there, never actually useful." Everyone laughed as he added, "Maybe we'll get her a participation trophy next year." I smiled, waited until my turn on stage, and calmly revealed that I had led every project he took credit for, complete with receipts. By the time I stepped down, he was already storming out of the building. I want to tell you how my manager humiliated me in front of the whole company, and how I finally snapped, not by yelling or crying, but by calmly, carefully, tearing him down with the truth. Let me start from the beginning. I work for a tech company in Cincinnati, Ohio. Not a startup. Not some cool place with beanbags and kombucha. We design logistics tracking systems for mid-sized shipping companies. It's boring, stable, and full of people who play politics harder than they work. I've been there almost 5 years. My name is Claire. I'm a senior implementation specialist. That title sounds more important than it is. What I really do is make sure our clients actually get working software. When things break, I fix them. When projects fall behind, I pick up the slack. When people leave, I train their replacements. I've been on nearly every big project our company launched in the last few years. And Rick? Rick was my manager for 3 of those years. The kind of guy who talks big, dresses flashy, and says the same 3 phrases in every meeting: value add, synergy, and circle back. He doesn't write code. Doesn't check work. He barely reads emails. But somehow, he's always the guy in the photos at project launches. Always the name mentioned in company newsletters. Because Rick knows how to perform. He knows how to say just enough smart-sounding things in front of the right people. And behind the scenes, he pushes the actual work onto people like me. Quiet people. People who don't complain. People who just want to do a good job. For a long time, I let him. I kept telling myself that being professional meant not starting drama. That maybe one day, someone higher up would notice who really did the work. But that night, the night of the company awards, something in me snapped. It was supposed to be a big deal. We only have one awards night a year. They rent out a ballroom downtown, put up banners, and hand out fake gold trophies. Nobody actually cares about the awards, but management acts like it's the Oscars. I wasn't planning to win anything. I never had before. So when I got an email saying I was nominated for Excellence in Execution, I thought it was a mistake. I didn't even know who nominated me. I showed up in a simple black dress, the same one I wear to weddings and funerals. I sat at the end of the table, near the wall. Rick and a few other managers were up near the front. The CEO gave a speech. The HR director read off names. People clapped politely. Then came the Leadership Excellence Award. Of course, Rick was one of the nominees. He walked up to the mic with his fake confidence and that greasy grin he always had when he thought he was being funny. And right in front of everyone, the entire company, he said this: "I couldn't have done it without my team. Especially Claire. She's like our emotional support employee, always there, never actually useful." The room exploded with laughter. Even some of my coworkers chuckled. Then he added, "Maybe next year we'll get her a participation trophy." People laughed again. But I didn't. I just smiled. Because I wasn't shocked. I wasn't hurt. Not anymore. I was ready. You see, I've been documenting everything for over a year. Every time Rick took credit for something I did, I saved proof. I had screenshots. Emails. Project files. Git logs. Meeting recordings. I didn't plan it as revenge at first, I just wanted a record. Something to protect myself if anything ever went wrong. But after that moment? After he called me useless in front of everyone? I decided it was time. A few minutes later, my name was called for my award. Excellence in Execution. I walked up, calm. Took the mic, looked straight ahead. I said, Thank you. I wasn't expecting to be up here tonight. I've never won an award here. But I've been behind the scenes of almost every major project we've completed over the past few years. Some people clapped softly. I clicked the tiny remote I had hidden in my clutch purse. I had emailed a small slide deck to the AV guy earlier that day, just in case. He was a buddy of mine from the dev team. I told him I wanted to thank my team with visuals. He had no idea what I was really going to show. Slide 1, Project Alpha. Milestones completed by Claire. Code commit logs. My name on every single one. Slide 2, Slack messages from Rick asking me to just put my name on the report. Slide 3, email from a client thanking me directly, that Rick forwarded to the leadership team claiming the praise for himself. I kept going. This isn't about taking credit. It's about truth. For the last 3 years, I've been the one actually delivering results. Rick presented them, but I built them. I kept quiet because I thought staying professional meant staying silent. But when you get mocked on stage, called useless, it kind of shakes that belief. You could hear the silence. Forks stopped clinking. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh my God." I looked at Rick. He wasn't laughing anymore. His face had gone pale. You all can decide for yourselves whether this is what leadership looks like. I just wanted to share what actually happened. And then I walked off the stage. Rick was already standing up. His chair slammed back as he pushed away from the table. He didn't say a word. Just stormed out, his wife chasing after him. One of the HR managers followed close behind. I sat down, finished my glass of wine, and didn't say a word to anyone. People kept stealing glances at me. A few coworkers gave small nods. One whispered finally. The next day, Rick didn't show up to work. 2 days later, we got an email saying he was on leave. A week after that, I got called into HR. But this story's not over. I walked into the HR meeting with my head high, but my stomach was in knots. The room had that fake calm, beige walls, a round table, bottled water lined up like props. Amy from HR was there. So was James, the VP of Operations. I'd seen him maybe 5 times in 5 years. His presence made it clear this wasn't a routine check-in. Amy smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Claire, thank you for coming in. We want to talk about the presentation you gave at the awards night." I nodded. I already knew this could go either way. James leaned forward. "You caused quite a stir." I said nothing. "Some of the leadership team felt blindsided," Amy added. "By the truth?" I asked. That made James pause. Then he said, "We reviewed the materials you presented. We also looked into your claims. Everything checks out. The projects, the communications, the contributions, it's clear you've been carrying more than your share." That should have been a relief. But it wasn't. Because then he continued. "But we also need to talk about how this was handled." Ah. There it was. Amy jumped in. "We understand your frustration, Claire. But going public like that, in front of the whole company, it embarrassed leadership. It caused a disruption." Disruption. Not "you were right." Not "we're sorry." Just, disruption. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "So what's this?" I asked. "A warning? You gonna fire me for exposing a manager who's been stealing credit for years?" James held up a hand. "No. We're not taking disciplinary action. But we want to offer you a new position, team lead. You'd be managing the department temporarily. We'll reassess in 6 months." It sounded like a promotion. But it wasn't a reward. It was damage control. They didn't want a lawsuit. They didn't want bad PR. They wanted me quiet and under control. I said I'd think about it. As I left the room, Amy called out gently. Claire. I hope you know how valued you are. I didn't answer. Back at my desk, things had changed. People were acting strange. Some were warm. Supportive. A few left post-it notes with things like hell yeah and about time. But others? Cold. Distant. Two co-workers who used to eat lunch with me now avoided eye contact. I overheard one of them mutter something about me making a scene. Even my friend Jeremy, the AV guy who helped run the slides, got pulled into a separate HR meeting. He wasn't in trouble, not exactly, but they reminded him to vet content more carefully next time. I felt like a virus had entered the building, and I was it. But I wasn't done. Because after that awards night, people from other departments started coming to me. Quietly. In whispers. They had stories. One woman from finance said Rick pressured her to fudge numbers in a quarterly report, just clean up language, he'd called it. A guy from the IT support desk said Rick had threatened to block his promotion unless he worked unpaid overtime. And then a name came up. Samantha. A developer who'd quit 2 years ago. No warning. No goodbye. Just left. Back then, it seemed random. Now? People were saying Rick bullied her out. That he'd taken credit for her work too, then gaslit her when she spoke up. That she tried to go to HR, but they found no evidence and she left with a generic severance and a non-disclosure agreement. I looked her up on LinkedIn. Found her new job in Indianapolis. Sent a message. She replied in 5 minutes. I've been waiting for someone to call him out. Tell me everything. So I did. And what she sent me next would blow everything wide open. Samantha sent me a folder. Encrypted, password protected. She was smart, way smarter than Rick ever gave her credit for. When I opened it, I felt like I was holding something radioactive. Inside were over 200 files. Emails. Voice memos. Slack exports. Even a recording of a private meeting between her and Rick, where he said, and I quote, "Look, you're good at what you do, but I'm the one who knows how to sell it. Let me be the face. You keep building. That's how this works." Another clip had him laughing with another manager, talking about how he'd put Samantha in her place. It was disgusting. The most damning thing? An email Samantha had sent to HR, dated 2 years ago, laying out in detail what Rick had been doing. Same exact pattern. Stealing credit, creating a hostile work environment, driving people out. Their reply was short. Cold. Thank you for your message. We've reviewed your concerns and found no evidence of wrongdoing at this time. The same Amy from HR who now smiled at me in meetings had signed that response. I felt sick. This wasn't just about Rick. It wasn't even just about me anymore. The company had known. They'd looked the other way. Probably because Rick made them look good on paper. His department hit all the KPIs, never mind how the work got done. I printed everything. I wasn't stupid. I didn't trust the company's network, so I kept hard copies in a folder at home and a flash drive in my purse. And then I made a decision. I told Samantha I was going to the board. She warned me. You sure about that? They'll circle the wagons. They don't want this going public. I'm sure, I told her. I'm done staying quiet. But I didn't go in guns blazing. Instead, I played it slow. First, I met with the only board member I thought might actually listen, Mr. Harlan, one of the original investors. He was semi-retired, barely involved anymore. But he'd always struck me as fair. Level-headed. He still dropped by the office once a quarter to shake hands and pretend he remembered our names. I caught him during one of those visits. Told him I had something he needed to see. We met in a conference room. Just the two of us. I laid out everything. Rick's behavior, the stolen work, HR's inaction, Samantha's documentation. I showed him the files. The patterns. The rot that went way deeper than one manager. He didn't say much at first. Just sat back. Listened. When I finished, he said something I didn't expect. Claire, I believe you. But this isn't just about Rick anymore. This is about a culture we let happen. And that's when things really started moving. Harlan called an emergency board session for the following week. I wasn't invited. Obviously, but I heard whispers. Tension in the halls. People in suits showing up unexpectedly. Amy from HR looked like she hadn't slept in days. And then one morning, Rick came back. Waltzed in like nothing had happened. Smiling, fake cheerful. Said he was back from leave and ready to lead again. It was a test. They were watching how I'd react. Maybe even hoping I'd snap, so they could paint me as unstable or vengeful. So I didn't react. I didn't even look at him. Instead, I forwarded the board everything Samantha had sent me. All the files. All the receipts. Along with a short message, you gave him another chance. Here's why that was a mistake. And then I waited. 3 days later, Rick vanished again. No goodbye. No memo. His name disappeared from the company directory overnight. People asked questions. Management gave the usual lines: personnel changes, internal restructuring. But the whispers were louder this time. People knew something had gone down. Still, nobody said anything out loud. Not until the audit started. The internal audit started 2 weeks after Rick disappeared for good. At first, they said it was routine, just standard compliance. But that was a lie. They were digging. Deep. Not just into Rick, but into the whole department, and then beyond. They brought in outside consultants. People who didn't know anyone here. Who didn't owe favors or care about company politics. People who only cared about facts. They talked to everyone. Looked at project logs, HR complaints, exit interviews, bonus approvals, emails. And they found what I already knew, that Rick wasn't the only one. Turns out Rick had trained 2 other managers to operate just like him. A little network of credit thieves and bullies, each backing the other up. One of them had even pushed another woman out of the company 2 years ago. She'd left quietly, broken down, just like Samantha. Just like I almost did. When the audit report came back, it was brutal. 4 managers resigned. Amy from HR retired early. And 2 senior execs were relieved of their duties, which everyone knew meant fired. The CEO put out a statement, some garbage about values and moving forward stronger. Nobody bought it. The board offered me a full promotion to Director of Project Operations. More pay. My own office. A team reporting to me. But I didn't take it. Because by then, I was done. I was tired of fighting for respect in a place that only gave it when forced. I didn't want to spend another 10 years fixing the mess others made just so someone at the top could shine. I didn't want to mentor new hires only to watch them be broken down the same way I had been. So I quit. Quietly. No speech. No email blast. I gave my notice, handed in my badge, and walked out. But I didn't disappear. A month later, I filed a complaint with the Department of Labor. Samantha joined me. Then 3 other former employees. Together, we brought forward evidence of workplace retaliation, hostile conditions, and unethical management. The company settled. It wasn't public. Of course not. They buried it fast. But we each got a payout, more than enough to start over. I moved to Asheville, North Carolina. Found work with a small software firm that actually valued people. Not just said it, meant it. Samantha moved into a consulting role, helping other women navigate toxic workplaces. We still talk sometimes. Mostly about nothing. Sometimes about everything. And Rick? Last I heard, he tried to start his own company. Couldn't get funding. His name was too toxic in the industry now. Word got around. He tried to get a job at a rival firm. They interviewed him. Then they reached out to me. I told them the truth. They passed on him. Funny how karma works. Quiet at first. Then loud all at once. And me? I'm doing fine. But I'll never forget what it felt like to stand on that stage, being laughed at like I was nothing. And I'll never forget the moment they stopped laughing.